Hello again, everybody. This is Jack Stevenson, back with segment 3 of my keynote presentation on my latest ebook titled Pursuing a Jaques-Dalcroze Education, Solfege, Volume 1. In this segment, we will, as promised, continue with arm beats, another chapter from Unit 1. Now, let's read the slide. The practice of bodily movements awakens images in the mind. The stronger the muscular sensation, the clearer and more precise the images, and thereby the more metrical and rhythmic feeling it developed. For feeling is born of sensation. So what he's talking about here is how the body becomes the teacher. It's really at the crux of the whole entire methodology. It collects, the body collects a myriad of sensations through the muscular nervous system and then records them in the brain. And the more precise those sensations, the deeper it is ingrained in the cerebral cortex. So now with that in mind, let's see how beats and meters actually work and how they produce different sensations. First of all, think of each beat as a harmonic or melodic function. The cruising beat, the first beat of the measure, think of that as the tonic, and the last beat of the measure, the anacrusic beat, think of that as the dominant, where we're moving from tonic to dominant, but more importantly, we're moving from dominant to tonic. So we always have an action and a reaction. Therefore, this idea of having one beat in the measure, that's really an impossibility. You can't physically have just one beat in the measure. Theoretically, yes, that's possible, of course, but not physically. The body knows better than the brain. Now let's compare these two beats to 3 beats in a measure. Now what's happened? The cruising beat has moved to the left, the anacrusic beat has moved to the right. And the new beat, rather than being on the end, is in the middle. Therefore, it's a metacrusis, but it has a certain name. It's the pre-anacrusic metacrusis. It prepares the anacrusis. So therefore, I gave it a 4-chord function. So if you think it's going 1 to 4 to 5 and 1 to 4 to 5 and 1. So you get the sensation that, the crusis is stronger, metacrusis is slightly weaker, the anacrusis is the weakest, and it's falling back down to the crusic beat. Now, let's move on to 4 beats and you'll see what's happened again. Well, that gold one, that yellow metacrusis, or the subdominant, or the pre-anacrusic metacrusis, whichever one you want to call it, it's still in the same place. It's preparing the 5 chord. The 4 is still preparing 5. Where's the new beat? Here, after beat 1. It's inserted itself here as the 6th chord. So it's sort of like a tonic function, but it comes out of the 1 chord. So the 1 chord goes to the 6th chord, or the crusis goes to the post-crusic metacrusis. And so the crusis moving to the post moving to the pre moving to the ana. So you have these different beats with different personalities. And notice, though, that when we have 2 beats or 3 beats, the personalities of each of these beats actually changes as well within the context of the meter. And I'll show you how that happens. So in the same chapter, it continues and explains the arm beat patterns, mainly how they look and the sensations they provide when the simple meter and when in compound meter. Now let's look at this chart here, the first chart. The simple meter is on the left side, the compound meter is on the right side. Well, what's the difference? Well, the simple meter has straight lines, while the compound meter has curved lines. That's the first initial difference, and that's very important because the straight lines indicates the quality of this meter is angular, whereas the quality of the meter in compound is that it's circular. There's no direct angles. Everything is circular. Everything's rounded. So these beats are going to be rounded on the compound side, and the simple beats are going to be more or less squared on the simple side. Now let's look at when we move from tonic to dominant. Look in the simple meter. It's a line straight up, and actually on the same axis it's coming straight back down. But notice that the duration is a traveling up, and the duration is a traveling of the anacrusis is a traveling down. So we see that it's traveling up, then down. So the beat, the cruising beat, actually is not the downbeat. It's actually the upbeat. It's moving up to get to the anacrusis, who moves down again to get back down to the crusis. So the upbeat and the downbeat are just the opposite of what our brain thinks. The crusis lifts, the anacrusis falls. So the first beat of the measure should be called the pickup, And the last beat of the measure should be called the downbeat. Now let's look over the compound meter. Same ideas, but the lines are curved. So we swing up on the red, swing down on the blue, swing up, swing down, swing up, swing down. Now if you did traditional arm beat patterns in the Dalcroze methodology, you would say, wait a minute, Jack, I think you have them backwards. And I do, because I learned them from the top down. So I start up and I swing down for one, swing up for two. And after all my years of teaching and really doing a lot of research in this and observing students, I've discovered that really the first beat of the measure swings up and the second beat of the measure swings down. So always the crucis is lifting and the anacrusis is falling. Remember, the crucis lifts. Now let's look at three beats. Now look at the gold beat. Remember the pillars, how that gold beat prepared the blue beat? Well, that gold beat is the pre-anacrusic metacrusis, and it's preparing the anacrusis. Look where it is. Right over on to the right. So our first beat, our crusic beat, must travel upward as always, but it must travel to the right on an angle. So the gravitational force against it's going to be different there than it would be if it were traveling straight up again. So you can tell right away by that sensation, that's a totally different sensation. I'm not in a meter of 2 anymore. We must be in a meter of 3. So it moves up, prepares us, and it gets us to where the 4 chord is, and the 4 chord gets us to where the 5 chord is, and we're back down to the 1 chord. So we have 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. And notice that the 1 and the 4 are always still moving up on different angles, but always up, and only the anacrusis is falling. Same thing with the compound side. We swing up and we swing down, but between them is this circle to the right. So there is the beat that is preparing the anacrusis. So we swing up on the crucis. On the metacrusis, we're swinging to the right in a circle and then swing down. So we swing up, around, and down. Swing up, around, and down. Now, compare that to 4 beats, as we've been doing in the past. Let's look again. Well, here is the gold beat is exactly the same place. The 4 chords moving to the 5 chord. The pre-anacrusis metacrusis is moving to the anacrusis. Always. That'll always be there. Now look, where the new beat is, yes, off to the left. So now the crusic direction must go toward the left, and again at a different angle, and therefore again at a different sensation. So we're moving up, we're getting a new sensation telling us, we're not in 3, we're not in 2, we must be in 4 or more beats. So we move up to the left, and now this new beat takes us to where the original metacrusis was at that point, and then from there we go to the 5 and back down to the 1. So we have crucis moving up, meta moving over, meta moving up, and ana moving down. And notice all 3 beats are still traveling upward, 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 and that anacrusis is the only one traveling downward. Now compare the distance of the 3 anacruses. In the simple meter. In 2 beats, it's sort of normal. In 3 beats, it's a little bigger. And in 4 beats, it's even bigger yet. So the distance grows. So those sensations of the anacrusis will change as well. They will also feed me information about which meter I'm in. Now let's look at the 4 beats in a compound meter. You swing up and swing down on the crucis and the ana. And there you have the meta, the pre-anacrusic meta, but now you have the new one, the green one, the post-crusic one. So we go from red to green first. So we swing up to the red, on the red, arrive at the point there. Now we're going to swing to the left, make a circle, then we make a circle to the right, then we come back down. So we swing up, over, around, and down. Swing up, over, around, and down. And in the textbook, I have music that goes along with each of these illustrations that you can hear, and it'll be even more convincing when you hear the music go with it. Now, Dalcroze invented arm beats also in meter of 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now let's look at the meter of 5, and you notice something? Where is the new beat? Yes, it's smack in the middle there at point E. Now, well, let's look at A and B. If I were doing 2 beats, I'd move up to B and move down to A. If I were doing 3 beats, I'd move from A to C to B. And if I'm doing 4 beats, I move from A to D. then to C, then to B. But once I get past D, A, D, the new beats are going to be between D and C. So there we have E lurking in the middle. And notice the perspective, which is telling you that it's straight out in front of you. So you move from over to the left, like you did in 4 beats, then you move straight out in front of you. Then from there you go find point C, moving to point B to point A. And so in 6 beats, we move up to point D, we move to point E, we move up to point F. And the way that's done is that you turn your wrist up, you turn your palm up at your wrist to get to F, and then from F, you move straight over to where C always has been. Now, as we go further, notice we have more gestures tucked away in the center of the pattern. So crucis moves up, metacrucis moves straight out. For E, I move up for F. Now I'm going to come back to E. So I go up to E, up to F, back to E, then to C, then to B. And in 8 beats, we have the crucis, same direction, moving over to the left, metacrucis coming into E. We go up to F, come back to E, go over a bit to G, come over back to find C, and up to B. Fascinating how he invented these. They're not great for conducting, because actually for conducting orchestras or choirs, because all those gestures in the middle are out in front of your body, which are difficult to see when you're looking straight at them. So they're really great, however, for your rhythmicians to learn how to feel 7 beats in a measure, and how to find 8 beats in a measure, how to get the sensation for 5 beats in a measure. It's really all quite fascinating. Finally, the chapter concludes with Jaques-Dalcroze's recreation of time signatures, very important, that are now used widely by music educators and composers. Now, let's look at what he says. We propose a new method of indicating the time of a piece at the beginning or changes in the course of the development. In many cases, the present signatures are neither clear nor consistent. In indicating 3/4 bar, the figure 3 denotes the number of beats, and the 4, the duration of each beat. But in writing 6/8, the figure 6, instead of denoting the number of beats, denotes their subdivisions. It would be preferable to utilize the first number to indicate consistently the number of beats, and to denote the duration of each beat by the symbol corresponding to the duration. In other words, use the note value to indicate the duration. So here we go. We'll try to slide over and see. There they are as he has written them way back in 1915. So you can see he really was the first guy to come up with this idea. You can see in the simple meter we use quarter notes if it's a 4, we use half notes if it's a 2 at the bottom. And you can see that simple meter, the beat note is divisible by 2. Now let's look over compound meter, where we use the dotted quarter note for the beat note. Why? Because there the beats are divided by 3. There are 3 divisions in each beat. Champata, chata, pichapata, tipata, and the beat note is a dotted quarter note. So anytime you have anytime you have meters with dotted note values as the beat note, that's compound meter. Every time you have non-dotted notes as the beat note, that's simple meter. Because there are really only 2 kinds of notes in the world, those with dots and those without. Those with are divisible by 3, those without are divisible by 2. And it's so clear when you put them in the context of a time signature like this. Very easy to teach this concept as well. Well, this concludes segment 3 of the presentation. In segment 4, we will discuss the history of solmization and how we arrived at fixed do. Thanks so much. See you next time.